Hello and welcome to EyeMedics Podcast, where we bring you trusted insights and updates on the latest treatments that are available for your eye health. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that's everywhere: blue light. We've all read the headlines. Blue light damages your vision. You should wear specific glasses when using your screen. Blue light keeps you awake, and so on and so forth. Joining me today to separate the fact from fiction is Miss Shakti Thakur, the lead ophthalmologist and medical retina expert at EyeMedics. Welcome, Miss Shakti Thakur. How are you?
Thank you so much, Bindu. Yes, it's a great topic and many of our patients are worried about it. So it's definitely something we should be discussing and looking at the actual scientific evidence.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning then in that case. It's a question that everyone wants an answer to. What is blue light?
So our eyes are able to detect part of the electromagnetic spectrum, the visible part of wavelengths that are there from the sun. We can see wavelengths from roughly 380 nanometers to 780. So that's the blue end, which is the short wavelength, to the red end, which is the long wavelength. There are wavelengths at either end that we cannot see, but these are the wavelengths that our eyes are able to pick up as color. And those are the different colors that we see. For example, when we have a rainbow, the white light is split by raindrops into those various different colors. But when they combine, they form white light that is the normal light that we're aware of. So we are exposed to all those different frequencies of light. We are exposed to the blue light in natural light as well as the red light. What's interesting is that the proportion of the blue light as compared with the red light does vary at different times of the day. So the amount of blue light is higher towards the noon time of day, so around midday. It's much lower in the early morning and the late evening. So we are actually exposed to blue light as part of our normal experience. What we need to understand is how our lifestyles that have changed so much over the years, how our exposure has changed, and what we need to do about that.
So it's very interesting to know that we do get blue light and red light from nature as well. Now, my next question is, does blue light damage eyesight?
That's a very good question. Before we answer that directly, we have to take a couple of steps back. Blue light is essential to our bodies, and in particular, the retina, the human retina, actually has specific receptors that are sensitive to just the wavelength of blue light, nothing else. These are different from the rods and cones, which are the normal receptors. We call them photoreceptors that respond to the different light out there, the different colors out there, and it's able to form the pictures that we see. So these are called retinal ganglion cells, and they are intrinsically sensitive to blue light. They don't contribute to the color, to the shapes that we see, doesn't contribute to our vision, but they sense the amount of blue light, and that is relayed into the brain, a particular part that's called the hypothalamus, and that dictates many of our biological rhythms, the circadian rhythm, what's going on, the 24-hour clock that our body requires. And it's not just a single 24-hour clock for the whole body. It's actually different organs have different 24-hour clocks. It's really quite fascinating.
Are you serious?
So the importance of that,
wow.
The blue light then tells the brain when to slow things down, if you like, because at night, the body needs to prepare to relax, to go into sleep mode, and then the repair and regeneration that happens when you go to sleep. So there are a whole host of things that happen when you're in the kind of getting into sleep mode. The body has to put in place different hormonal changes, not only to help you to relax, but also to get ready to do all the repair jobs when you're asleep. So blue light and the hypothalamus govern not only sleep, people know about the sleep, that's an obvious one, but it also impacts majorly on your immune function, on different types of behaviors, on mood. The effects are much more widespread than we've actually understood. And this is an area that we're only just really beginning to appreciate. So blue light is essential to the body in that sense. The real question is, what happens if we get too much blue light, and is that damaging? So to answer that question, yes, too much blue light can be damaging to the front of the eye, to the cornea. But typically you'd only get that, when you're doing welding. So that's what we see. We get superficial burns if you're doing welding and you're not wearing the protective goggles. We're not talking about that. That's an extreme. What we're talking about is how much of that blue light filters through to the retina. That's the real damage, the phototoxic damage that we're talking about. And that's really important for aging. Now, interestingly, nature has put in filter or a couple of different filters that help us as we age to try and minimize that blue light getting through to the retina. One of those is the natural lens. So the natural lens that does the focusing as we get old starts to go yellow. And when it goes very yellow and starts to block some of the excess light, that's what we call a cataract. There are different types of cataract, but the natural yellowing of the lens is actually a protective mechanism because it absorbs some of that blue light coming through. It actually absorbs many of the different colors going through, but blue light in particular. And the other protective mechanism is that we have some natural pigments that are centered in the retina, in the macula, which is the very important central part that does the color vision and the fine vision. The natural pigments, lutein and zeaxanthin that are found in that area also filter, because blue light, we do know that blue light causes oxidation. It stresses the cells, if you like.
Right.
And the stress cells and the biochemistry produces byproducts that are damaging to the surrounding areas and will cause inflammation and cell death if this pattern of exposure is repeated or prolonged.
That's very interesting. It's both worrying and reassuring at the same time. So just taking a leaf from what you just said, that blue light does damage the eyes a lot, and what we call cataract at a certain point of time in our life is something that's result of the eye trying to save, the lens trying to save the eye, right?
It's one of the mechanisms.
I'm digressing here. I have a few more questions, but one coming from what you just shared with me is, does that mean that people who are using a lot of devices now, spending 10 to 12 hours on them, we will see the next generation suffering from cataract perhaps, or something, or similar eye problems at a much younger age? Could we see that? Is there any research that's going on there? Tell me anything that you have.
There's a lot of research out there now, actually, and I've read some very good articles, which you can reference at the end of the podcast. But essentially, the amount of blue light that we get from screens is not too worrying. It's the time at which we're exposed. So if you are getting exposed to the blue light from screens later in the evening, then that exposure is not good, because it will tell your brain that it's daytime, and then it will inhibit your sleep. It will disturb your sleep pattern.
That's why most people who use a lot of screens talk about not being able to sleep.
That's right. But the easy fix for that is putting on night shift. If you put all your devices, your screens, your phone onto night shift, automatically after sunset, those wavelengths will be filtered out. So that's an excellent way of dealing with that particular problem. If you don't have that night shift availability, you can wear blue lens blocking glasses or get a blue lens blocking screen.
Right.
The blue light that is slightly more worrying is the blue light that we can't control. So, for example, the LEDs that have now become the LED lighting, because it's more efficient and it costs a lot less. It's everywhere, particularly the white LEDs. That has a high proportion of blue light. And that's very different from the old-fashioned lighting that we used to have. White fluorescent strips are the same. They have a higher proportion of blue light. You want to be minimizing your use of those kind of lights. If you have to have LEDs, that's okay, but go for the warm white end. The warm white end has the longer wavelengths and is much more suited to the retina. Given the fact that we now, as humans, have a much extended day as compared to our ancestors, who would normally, once after sunset, would wind up their activities, sit in front of the fire and go to sleep. Exposure to light in general, artificial light and including blue light, means that we're up till 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock. So our overall light exposure is many, many times more than that of our ancestors. So we need to be mindful to choose the appropriate lighting, the old-fashioned lighting or the warm end of the LEDs. And when you're out and about, those people who are vulnerable in terms of their retinas, if you have some degeneration or an inherited retinal disorder, or in fact, people who had their cataracts removed, have any degree of retinal disease, they'll be slightly more vulnerable. So they need to be aware that when they're out and about in places where there are a lot of white LEDs, they might be advised to minimize that or use the appropriate glasses so that they're not so overexposed. That's not for everybody, perhaps, but it's something that if you are vulnerable, then those are situations that you need to deal with carefully.
Okay, that's really interesting. When you said younger people these days are staying awake till 10 o'clock, I was like, no, a lot longer, actually. So yes, I would say that's definitely of concern. And to our listeners, now might be the time to start making those plans about going to bed before, say, 11 o'clock instead of 2 a.m. in the morning, if you want to save your eyes from all the blue light that you're worried about. We have a lot of people connecting with us and say, I use a lot of screen time and by the end of the day, my eyes are feeling tired. Is that because of blue light or just other things also in general?
What happens when you're looking at a screen is you tend to stare. And when you stare, you stop blinking and then the eyes become dry because you're not having your regular lubrication of the surface of the eye that occurs with regular blinking. There's the sort of 20-20 rule, which is every 20 minutes, pause for 2 minutes and look straight ahead out of a window, something in distance. Generally speaking, young people especially would be advised to get at least 2 hours of outdoor light per day. Outdoor means actually being outdoors, not indoors looking from a window. There's science behind that.
I like how you're being very specific about not looking out of the window, but actually being outdoor.
Yes, there's a big difference. It's interesting how our ancestors would say being outdoors is healthy and fresh air, etc. But the science there is that actually you need to expose the body and your eyes to the more healing frequencies of light, which are the longer wavelengths, because they actually stimulate some of the genes that stimulate repair and regeneration and protect against the hazards of the blue light. And you can only get that when you're outdoors. Regular glass blocks those longer wavelengths. So you will simply not expose yourself to those protective frequencies if you are indoors. So you need to be outdoors. And the second thing is this enormous wave of myopia that is affecting the young in particular, and more so because we spend so much time doing near work and on screens. There's a definite association between the amount of time that's spent on screens and the increase of myopia when you're young. And one of the things that's been found to counteract that is exposure to the longer wavelengths, a couple of hours outdoors. So it's fascinating how the different exposures to different wavelengths actually is affecting our physiology and our function.
That's quite interesting. And I hope that people who are listening to this really do try to stay away and spend time away from their screens, go out, get the light that you're talking about. So we know that screens do have an effect on how tired or sore our eyes get by the end of the day. The other big question is that screen time is also disrupting sleep time. Now that there is truth to that, right? We just discussed that a little earlier in the podcast. What's the solution? Is the solution is packing up at 8 o'clock and saying, okay, this is it. Now I'm going to go out. I'm going to try it for the next 4 hours to sleep. Is that it?
I think it's increasing our awareness of what our activities are, when we are doing those activities, and coming back to some sort of balance. because we have gone out of balance with excessive use of screens, excessive duration, and way into the night. Now, that is not how we were meant to live. So it's reining it in a little bit and putting in those little breaks where we can, using the night shift mode, changing our activities. It's being mindful and maybe changing some of our habits, because really there is life beyond the screen. We have become addicted.
That is true. There is life beyond the screen. We just can't see it the way it is today. That's the thing. Here's another £1,000,000 question. Does everybody need blue light glasses if they are not following some of the steps that you'd spoken about, the night mode or the night shift on the phones and screens? Does that mean that everyone needs blue light glasses or not?
There's no scientific evidence for that as yet. It's very easy to put your devices on night shift and just limiting the time. I think at least 1 hour before bedtime, no more screens. That's the minimum that you should be doing. But if it's affecting your sleep, then you could maybe increase that. So maybe 2 hours before bedtime, no more screens. And remember, screens includes TV, but even on the modern TVs, you do have the ability to put it on the equivalent of night shift mode. Most of the devices that are out there, it is possible to put in that filter. And may I just say, before I completely forget, that the time of exposure to the longer wavelengths, the rule is if your shadow is longer or taller than you are when you're outside, then the amount of the longer wavelength, proportion of longer wavelengths in the light out there is greater than the shorter wavelengths. So that's early morning, late evening, rather than at the midday time when the blue light will be at its peak.
Okay, that's super helpful. We're getting ready to wrap the podcast now. What I'd like to ask you is, what are Shakti's top 2 or 3 practical tips to keep your eyes looking great and eyesight even better?
Use night shift mode. Be outdoors at least half an hour a day, preferably morning or evening. Eat healthy. So remember, antioxidants are really important. And if you have any retinal problems, then that may need to be supplemented with the appropriate AREDS vitamins. And if there is any propensity to wear and tear retinal disease, see a retinal specialist for more particular advice.
Awesome. So today we're going to wrap up with a rapid fire round. So separating fact from the myth. Should we get started?
Of course.
So each of the answers should either be fiction or fact. Okay. Let's start. Blue light makes you go blind.
Fiction.
Okay, got it. Kids absolutely need blue light glasses for school tablets.
Fiction.
Sunlight contains more blue light than any digital screen.
Fact.
Blue light filtering glasses prevent all eye strain.
Fiction.
That was great. This has been a brilliant conversation. Thank you so much. To all our listeners who would like to know more, you can visit our website, EyeMedics.co.uk, or write into us. Until next time, take care of your eyes and remember, your vision is worth protecting.